My sister showed up to our brother's funeral in a $10,000 Chanel suit, squeezing out crocodile tears while clutching his 7-year-old daughter. I thought she had finally found her heart. I was dead wrong. She hadn't come to comfort an orphan. She had come to collect a paycheck. If you looked at a photograph of the Whitmore siblings, you'd never guess the rot hiding just beneath the surface. Liam was the oldest, the golden boy who inherited our father's sharp intellect and our mother's boundless compassion. I'm Ellie, the middle child, the quiet and reliable one who stayed behind to manage the family's sprawling Connecticut estate after our parents passed. And then there was Diana. Diana was the youngest, a hurricane of entitlement wrapped in a deceptively sweet smile. While Liam built a wildly successful software company and I restored the aging Whitmore Manor, Diana spent her 20s bouncing from one European city to another, draining the modest trust funds our parents had left us. By the time she was 30, she had nothing left but maxed out credit cards and a roster of wealthy, exhausted ex-boyfriends. Liam and I constantly bailed her out. Well, mostly Liam. He had a soft spot for her, a naive belief that she just needed one more chance to turn her life around. His wife, Sarah, was less convinced, but she tolerated Diana for Liam's sake. They had a beautiful life together, centered entirely around their daughter, Lily. Lily was a bright, sunshine-filled 7-year-old who loved catching frogs by the estate's pond and baking lopsided chocolate chip cookies in my kitchen. Everything shattered on a rainy Tuesday in October. I was in the estate's greenhouse when my phone rang. It was the state police. There had been a massive pileup on Interstate 84. A semi-truck had hydroplaned. Liam and Sarah were in the crush. They didn't make it. The next 48 hours were a blur of unimaginable agony. I remember identifying the bodies, my knees buckling against the cold linoleum of the morgue. But more vividly, I remember driving to the local police precinct to pick up Lily. She had been at a friend's house during the crash. When I knelt down in that sterile waiting room and pulled her into my arms, she was trembling like a leaf. I didn't have the words to tell her that her entire world was gone. I just held her, rocking her back and forth, silently vowing that I would protect her with my life. I brought Lily back to the estate. We spent the first few days curled up in my bed, watching her favorite animated movies on loop, neither of us eating much, just surviving the shockwaves of grief. Then, the front door swung open, and the scent of expensive Tom Ford perfume filled the hallway. Diana had arrived. She hadn't visited the estate in 2 years. The last time she was here, she had thrown a screaming fit because Liam refused to invest in her friend's doomed crypto startup. But now, she breezed into the foyer, looking like a grieving widow from a glossy magazine spread. Black silk dress, oversized sunglasses, and a perfectly tragic pout. "Where is she?" Diana demanded, bypassing me completely and heading straight for the stairs. "Where is my precious little angel?" I caught her arm. Keep your voice down." Lily finally cried herself to sleep. "She's fragile right now." Diana yanked her arm away, glaring at me. "I'm her aunt, Ellie. I have every right to comfort my niece. Don't try to gatekeep a child's grief." Over the next week, Diana put on a performance worthy of an Academy Award. Whenever extended family or Liam's wealthy business partners stopped by to pay their respects, Diana was right there, clutching Lily to her chest, sobbing delicately into a monogrammed handkerchief. She painted herself as the devoted, devastated sister, stepping up in a time of crisis. But behind closed doors, when the guests left, Diana couldn't be bothered. She complained about the Wi-Fi in the guest wing. She scowled when Lily's crying interrupted her phone calls. On the morning of the funeral, I caught her in the kitchen, furiously texting someone while Lily sat at the island, staring blankly at a bowl of cold oatmeal. "Can you sit with her?" I whispered to B. "I need to finalize the floral arrangements." Diana didn't even look up from her screen. "I'm coordinating with the caterers, Ellie. I can't do everything. Just put on an iPad for her." A cold knot formed in my stomach. Diana didn't care about Lily. She was going through the motions, and I couldn't figure out why. Diana never did anything unless there was a massive, tangible benefit for her. I found out exactly what that benefit was 2 days after we put my brother and sister-in-law in the ground. Arthur Pendleton, Liam's longtime corporate attorney and estate executor, called us into his sleek downtown office to read the will. It was just me, Diana, and a heavy, suffocating silence. Lily was back at the estate with Mrs. Gable, our longtime housekeeper. Arthur adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses, looking incredibly uncomfortable. Liam and Sarah's passing is a profound loss, he began, his voice tight. Liam was very thorough in his estate planning, primarily concerning Lily's future. Arthur handed us thick, cream-colored folders. I flipped mine open, my eyes scanning the dense legal jargon. Liam had built an empire. His company had gone public the year prior, and his assets were staggering. The bulk of his estate, roughly $15 million, was placed into an ironclad trust for Lily. She wouldn't be able to touch the principal until she was 25. "That's a beautiful thing," I whispered, tears pricking my eyes. He made sure she'd always be safe. "Yes," Arthur said, shifting his weight. "However, there is the matter of guardianship and the associated allowances." Diana leaned forward, her eyes gleaming like a hawk locking onto a field mouse. "Allowances?" "To ensure Lily's guardian can provide the lifestyle Liam and Sarah wanted for her, including private schooling, extracurriculars, and a comfortable home environment, the trust stipulates a monthly stipend to be paid directly to the legal guardian," Arthur explained. "How much?" Diana asked. She didn't even try to hide the breathlessness in her voice. Arthur cleared his throat. $25,000 a month, tax-free, adjusted annually for inflation. My jaw dropped. $300,000 a year. It was an exorbitant amount, but Liam had always been fiercely protective and generous. He wanted his daughter to have the world, and he wanted to make sure whoever took her in wasn't financially burdened. "Naturally," I said, looking at Arthur. "I'll handle the funds meticulously. I've already spoken to the headmaster at Lily's current school, and—" "Wait," Diana interrupted, slamming her perfectly manicured hand on the mahogany desk. "Why do you assume you're getting the money? Or the kid?" I blinked, confused. "Because I live at the family estate, B. I've been practically a second mother to Lily since she was born." "We already discussed this." "We didn't discuss anything," Diana countered, a venomous smile spreading across her face. She looked at the lawyer. "Arthur, who is named as the legal guardian in the will." Arthur looked physically ill. He pulled out a document with a blue legal backing and set it on the desk. "This is Liam and Sarah's last signed will and testament. It is dated the 14th of August, 2018. 2018. My blood ran cold. "In 2018, I said, panic rising in my chest. Diana had just moved back from London. She was sober, she was doing well, and Liam was so proud of her, but that was before her relapse. Before she stole from his company to pay off her debts. They wouldn't have kept her as the guardian." "They didn't intend to," Arthur said softly. "Last year, Liam directed my office to draft a new will, naming you, Ellie, as the sole guardian. The paperwork was drafted. I sent it over to them for signatures last month." "And?" I demanded. "They never signed it," Arthur said, closing his eyes. "It was sitting on Liam's desk at his home office. Without the signed update, the 2018 document is the legally binding instrument. The legal guardian of Lily Whitmore and the recipient of the monthly trust stipend is Diana." The room spun. I felt like I was suffocating. I looked at Diana. She was leaning back in her leather chair, practically vibrating with triumph. She wasn't looking at a tragedy. She was looking at a winning lottery ticket. "This is absurd," I snapped, standing up. "B, you can't even take care of a houseplant. You don't know the first thing about raising a traumatized 7-year-old girl. You have to decline the guardianship. Pass it to me." "Are you insane?" Diana scoffed, picking up her designer handbag. "Liam wanted me to have her. That's why he didn't sign the new will. Deep down, he knew I was the fun aunt. I'll be a great mother." "You want the 25 grand a month," I yelled, abandoning all decorum. "I want what's rightfully mine," she shot back, her mask slipping to reveal the cold, calculating greed underneath. "And as her guardian, I get to decide where she lives. Pack her bags, Ellie. I'm moving her into the east wing of the estate." "You can't do that. The estate is mine," I protested. "The estate was left to both of us by Mom and Dad," Diana reminded me with a sickening smirk. "You just live there because you have no life. I own 50%. I'm moving into my half of the house, and I'm bringing my daughter." Over the next month, my home turned into a nightmare. Diana moved into the sprawling east wing of Whitmore Manor. True to her nature, The first thing she did with her initial $25,000 trust deposit wasn't hiring a child therapist or securing Lily's school tuition. She bought a brand new Porsche Cayenne and hired a cheap, disinterested 19-year-old nanny named Kinsley to watch Lily while she went shopping. I watched in silent horror as Lily withered away. The bright, bubbly girl who loved frogs and baking was replaced by a hollow-eyed ghost who barely spoke. Diana ignored her completely. They lived under the same roof, but they were worlds apart. I tried to intervene constantly. I would cook Lily's favorite meals, take her for walks, and help her with her homework, but Diana caught on. Diana realized that if I did all the work, she could continue living like a reality TV star without lifting a finger, but she also knew she needed to assert dominance to ensure I didn't try to take her cash cow away. One evening in late November, I walked into the East Wing to find Lily sitting on the floor of the hallway, crying softly. Inside the master suite, I could hear loud music and the clinking of glasses. Diana was throwing a dinner party for her new friends, a bunch of vapid socialites she'd picked up at a high-end country club. I scooped Lily up. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" I asked Aunt Bee to read me a bedtime story. Lily sobbed, burying her face in my shoulder. She told me to go away because I was ruining the vibe, and she locked the door. A fiery, blinding rage ignited in my chest. I carried Lily back to my wing of the house, tucked her into my bed, and read to her until she fell into an exhausted sleep. Then, I marched over to the East Wing. I didn't bother knocking. I threw the double doors open. Diana was lounging on a velvet sofa, a martini in hand, laughing with a man I didn't recognize. The music was deafening. "Music off. Now," I demanded. Diana rolled her eyes, motioning for her guest to turn it down. "Ellie, you're so dramatic. What do you want?" "You locked a grieving 7-year-old out of her room so you could drink?" I asked, my voice dangerously low. She was whining. Diana slurred slightly. "Kids need boundaries." "You're a monster, Bee. You're using my brother's death to fund your pathetic, empty life. I'm calling Arthur. I'm calling Child Protective Services. I will drag you through family court until you have nothing left." Diana stood up, her face flushing with anger. She marched up to me, jabbing a manicured finger into my chest. "Listen to me, you pathetic spinster. I am her legal guardian. The courts heavily favor the named guardian. If you try to challenge me, I will sell my half of this estate to a commercial developer, pack Lily up, and move to Paris. You will never see her again. Do you understand me? Keep your mouth shut, play the built-in babysitter, and let me live my life, or I will take away the only family you have left." She slammed the door in my face. I stood in the hallway, my hands shaking uncontrollably. She had me trapped. Legally, she held all the cards. She had half the house, she had the guardianship, and she had the trust fund money to hire ruthlessly expensive lawyers if I tried to fight her. But Diana had made one fatal miscalculation. She thought I was just the quiet, reliable middle sister. She thought I was a pushover. She forgot that I had spent the last decade meticulously managing the legal and financial intricacies of the Whitmore estate. I knew every loophole, every buried clause in our parents' trust, and every secret this property held. If she wanted to play dirty for a trust fund, she was about to learn that I would burn the entire world down to protect my niece. The vulture had landed in my house, but I was about to build a cage she could never escape. For the first 2 months, I played the obedient, beaten-down sister. I smiled tightly when Diana paraded her new boyfriends through the foyer. I bit my tongue when she replaced our mother's antique Persian rugs with gaudy, modern monstrosities. And, most importantly, I made sure Lily was completely shielded from her aunt's toxicity. I became Lily's shadow, taking her to school, packing her lunches, and holding her when the night terrors about the car crash jolted her awake at 3 a.m. Diana thought she had won. She thought I was too terrified of losing Lily to ever fight back. But behind the scenes, I was quietly sharpening my knives. I didn't go to Arthur Pendleton. Arthur was a corporate guy, loyal to my brother's company, but he was too soft for a street fight in family court. Instead, I hired Donovan Hayes. Donovan was a ruthless, shark-eyed family law attorney based out of Boston who specialized in high-net-worth custody disputes and trust fund fraud. We had our first meeting in secret, at a diner 2 towns over. I handed him a thick binder of financial records, estate documents, and Connecticut family court statutes. She's blowing through the 25,000 a month, Donovan, I explained, tapping the binder. She hasn't paid Lily's tuition at the Oak Ridge Academy. I paid it out of my own pocket, so Lily wouldn't get expelled. Diana hasn't taken her to a single pediatric or therapy appointment, but she did buy a Porsche, and last week she dropped $12,000 on a custom Birkin bag. It's embezzlement. Donovan flipped through the pages, his expression unreadable. Misappropriation of a minor's trust stipend is a solid angle, Ellie, but proving it in a way that strips her of guardianship immediately is tricky. Courts give blood relatives a lot of leeway. She could argue the car is for transporting the child, or that the lifestyle upgrades are to maintain the standard of living your brother intended. We need a silver bullet, something undeniable. What about the house? I asked. She threatened to force a partition sale and sell her half of the estate to a commercial developer if I crossed her. Donovan paused, pulling out the original deed to Whitmore Manor, drafted by our grandfather, Reginald Whitmore, in 1972. He adjusted his reading glasses, his eyes scanning the dense, archaic text. Suddenly, a slow, predatory smile spread across his face. She threatened to sell her half? Donovan asked softly. Yes, can she do that? Not without destroying herself, Donovan chuckled, tapping a specific paragraph on the yellowed parchment. Your grandfather drafted a draconian encumbrance and preservation clause. Whitmore Manor is classified as a family heritage trust. It explicitly states that no sibling can sell, mortgage, or financially leverage their portion of the estate without the unanimous, notarized consent of the other living heirs. If one heir attempts to unilaterally encumber the property, they are immediately found in breach of the trust, and their ownership stake is entirely forfeited to the remaining heir to protect the estate. My heart hammered against my ribs. Meaning? Meaning. If Diana tries to take out a loan against this house, or sign a contract with a developer without your signature, she legally evicts herself. She loses her 50%. It becomes 100% yours. The plan was set. I just needed to let Diana's own greed hang her. By January, the $25,000 a month wasn't cutting it for Diana. She had maxed out her new credit cards, trying to keep up with the billionaire wives at the local country club. I started leaving fake architectural magazines and brochures for luxury Aspen ski chalets lying around the house. I knew she couldn't resist. Sure enough, a sleazy, slick-haired real estate developer named Preston Harrington started showing up at the East Wing. I eavesdropped from the library as Diana loudly complained to him about being cash poor, despite her massive trust access. I have $15 million locked up in this brat's trust that I can't touch for 18 years, Diana whined, pouring Preston a scotch. But I own half of this estate. It's sitting on 40 acres of prime Connecticut real estate. It's worth at least $8 million. I have a private lending firm, Preston smoothly replied. We can give you a $3 million collateralized loan against your equity in the property. No banks, no red tape. You can buy that Aspen property tomorrow. Do it, Diana said. Draw up the papers. She didn't ask for my consent. She didn't even mention it. She was so arrogant, so utterly convinced of her own invincibility, that she didn't bother to read the family bylaws. The trap was primed. Now, I just needed the silver bullet for Lily's custody. Diana handed it to me 3 days later. It was a freezing Friday morning. I was in the kitchen making pancakes when Diana strutted in, dragging a massive Louis Vuitton suitcase. She was dressed in a pristine white Moncler ski suit. I'm going to Aspen with Preston, she announced casually, checking her reflection in the microwave door. We're flying private out of Teterboro. Aspen? I asked, gripping the spatula tightly. For how long? 10 days. Maybe 2 weeks. Depends on the snow. She waved her hand dismissively. B, you can't just leave, I said, keeping my voice level. You are Lily's legal guardian. The nanny Kinsley quit 2 days ago because you didn't pay her. Who is going to watch Lily? Diana scoffed, rolling her eyes. Oh, please, Ellie. You live for this domestic martyr garbage. You watch her. Think of it as a bonding experience. I am not her legal guardian, Diana. You are. If there is a medical emergency, I don't have the legal authority to authorize treatment. You cannot abandon your ward to go on a ski trip. Watch me, she sneered. She leaned in close, her perfume suffocating me. If you call anyone, Or if you make a fuss, I swear to God, Ellie, I will move her to a boarding school in Switzerland the second I get back. Don't test me." She turned on her heel and walked out the door. The heavy oak door slammed shut behind her. I waited exactly 60 seconds. Then, I pulled out my phone and called Donovan Hayes. "She did it," I said, my voice trembling with adrenaline. "She abandoned the state." "And Donovan?" "Preston Harrington's courier dropped off the final loan documents yesterday. I saw her sign them and hand them back." "I'll call the judge," Donovan said, his tone dead serious. "Get the paperwork ready. We are taking your niece back." The next 10 days were a whirlwind of legal warfare. First, Donovan filed an emergency ex parte motion for temporary custody based on child abandonment. Because Diana had left the state for an extended vacation without making formal legal arrangements for her ward's care, the family court judge was absolutely livid. I presented the bank statements proving Diana had siphoned the guardianship stipend to pay for the Aspen chalet rental, while I had exclusively paid for Lily's food, schooling, and medical care. The judge signed the emergency custody order granting me full temporary guardianship of Lily, effective immediately. Next, Donovan contacted Arthur Pendleton. When Arthur saw the unassailable proof of Diana's embezzlement, he was legally obligated to freeze the trust fund payouts. The $25,000 monthly faucet was violently shut off. Finally, the masterpiece. Donovan sent a formal legal notice to Preston Harrington's shadow bank, informing them that Diana's collateralized loan was fraudulent. He attached the Whitmore Trust bylaws. Because I hadn't signed the loan, the contract was void. More importantly, the moment Diana's pen hit that paper attempting to mortgage the estate, she triggered the encumbrance clause. By the time Diana's private jet touched down in New York 10 days later, she was officially homeless, broke, and stripped of her guardian status. It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon when a black town car pulled into the circular driveway of Whitmore Manor. I was standing on the front porch. Donovan Hayes was standing to my right, clutching a leather briefcase. 2 private security guards I had hired were flanked to my left. Diana stepped out of the car, looking tanned and utterly exhausted. She didn't notice the security guards at first. She just marched up the steps, dragging her suitcase. "Ellie, pay the driver," she commanded, not even looking at me. "I have a migraine, and I need—" "Your key doesn't work anymore, B," I interrupted softly. Diana froze. She looked up, finally registering Donovan and the men in black suits. Her eyes narrowed. "What is this? Who are these people?" "This is Donovan Hayes, my attorney," I said. Donovan stepped forward, handing her a thick manila envelope. "Diana Whitmore, you are formally served. Inside you will find an emergency court order stripping you of your guardianship of Lily Whitmore, citing child abandonment and financial fraud." Diana let out a harsh, barking laugh, dropping her suitcase. "You're joking. You think a piece of paper stops me? I am her aunt. I am the named guardian. I will destroy you in court, Ellie." "You'll need money for a lawyer to do that," I replied smoothly. "And Arthur Pendleton froze your trust access yesterday. The district attorney's office is currently reviewing the ledger of your expenditures. Using a minor's trust stipend to charter a private jet is a felony, B. If you fight this custody order, Donovan will ensure the DA files criminal embezzlement charges. You will go to prison." The color rapidly drained from Diana's face. Her bravado faltered, replaced by a sudden, frantic panic. She looked at the house. "You can't do this. You can't lock me out. I own half this estate. I'll call the police. I'll force a sale." "You don't own a single brick of this house anymore," Donovan cut in, his voice like ice. He handed her a second envelope. "By signing a loan agreement with Preston Harrington, without your sister's consent, you violated the Whitmore Heritage Trust. As per your grandfather's stipulations, your 50% stake has been legally forfeited. The deed has already been transferred entirely into Ellie's name. You are currently trespassing on private property." Diana stumbled backward, clutching the envelopes to her chest as if they were physically burning her. "No," she whispered, her voice cracking. "No, this is a trick. You set me up. You set me up." "No, B," I said, stepping forward so I was inches from her face. "You set yourself up. You used my brother's death as a payday. You looked at a traumatized little girl and saw nothing but a dollar sign. I told you I would protect her, and I meant it." Diana looked wildly around, tears of pure rage spilling down her cheeks. She was hyperventilating, realizing that every single safety net she had ever exploited was gone. There was no Liam to bail her out. There was no trust fund. There was no house. "Where am I supposed to go?" she sobbed, dropping her designer bag into a puddle on the driveway. "I don't care," I said, my voice completely hollow of any sympathy. "But you are never stepping foot on this property, and you are never coming near Lily again. Leave." She stood there for a long time, the rain ruining her perfect hair, waiting for me to break, waiting for the soft, reliable middle sister to offer her a lifeline. But that sister had died the day Liam did. Eventually, the silence broke her. Diana turned around, picked up her ruined bag, and walked down the long, winding driveway. The town car had already left. She was completely alone. It's been 3 years since that day on the porch. I never saw Diana again. I heard through a distant cousin that she moved to Las Vegas, working as a hostess at a mid-tier casino, buried in debt from Preston Harrington's broken contract. As for me, I formally adopted Lily 6 months later. The estate is filled with life again. The dark, heavy silence of the East Wing has been replaced by the sound of Lily practicing her violin, and the kitchen always smells like slightly burnt chocolate chip cookies. She's 10 now, thriving, brilliant, and carrying so much of Liam and Sarah's light within her. We visit their graves every Sunday, not with sorrow, but with peace. I had to become a monster to defeat one, but looking at my daughter smiling in the greenhouse today, I know I would do it all over again. Family isn't just blood. It's the people you are willing to go to war to protect. What would you have done if you were in Ellie's shoes? Would you have set the ultimate legal trap, or tried to compromise with a toxic family member? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you enjoyed this story of revenge, justice, and protecting the innocent, please hit that like button. Share this video with someone who loves a good twist, and subscribe to the channel for more crazy real-life drama. See you in the next one.